Robert Langford stood in a dusty village 2 hours north of Pattaya, asking locals if they'd heard of the Pramwong family. Nobody had. The land he'd supposedly bought for £210,000 didn't exist. The woman he'd called his fiancée had vanished like smoke. He was 66 years old, standing in the Thai heat with printed bank transfers showing every pound he'd saved in 43 years of driving buses through Leeds winters all gone. Transferred willingly to a 24-year-old bar hostess who'd called him husband and promised him forever. The village chief looked at Bob with pity and shrugged. No Pramwong family here. Never. Bob's hands trembled as he looked at the papers, land deeds with official stamps, building permits with government seals, contracts with signatures, all expertly forged, all completely worthless. But 8 months earlier, sitting in his cold house in Leeds, 4 weeks after burying his wife, Margaret, Bob had no idea any of this was coming. 8 months earlier, he thought moving to Thailand would save him from the loneliness that was crushing him like a weight he couldn't lift. He thought he was starting over. Instead, he was walking straight into the most elaborate con of his life. Robert Langford, everyone called him, Bob turned 66 on a gray January morning in 2024. He woke alone in the house in Hare Hills, Leeds, that he'd shared with Margaret for 38 years. The bed felt too big. The house felt too quiet. Everything felt wrong. Margaret had died 4 weeks earlier on December 7th. Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosis to death in 11 months. Bob had been with her at the end in the hospice, holding her hand while she slipped away. Her last words were about the garden, reminding him to prune the roses in spring. He hadn't touched the garden since. Couldn't face it. The roses could die for all he cared. Bob had worked for First West Yorkshire Buses for 43 years. Started as a driver at 23, worked his way up to route supervisor by 50. It was decent work, steady pay, good pension, reliable. He'd driven the same routes through Leeds for decades, knew every street, every stop, every regular passenger. He'd retired at 65 with a full pension. 43 years of contributions meant he'd get £22,000 annually, about £1,800 monthly. Combined with his state pension and the value of his house, he was comfortable, not rich, but secure. His house in Hare Hills was worth about £280,000. He'd bought it in 1986 for $39,000 and watched it appreciate slowly over nearly 40 years. It was a standard 3-bedroom terrace, nothing special, but solid and paid off. Bob and Margaret had raised 3 kids there. Susan was 41 now, living in Manchester with her husband and 2 teenagers. Paul was 38, working in London for some finance company. David was 35, living in Australia, moved there 10 years ago and rarely came back. After Margaret's funeral, the kids had stayed for 2 days. They'd helped sort some of her things, made sympathetic noises, told Bob to call if he needed anything. Then they'd left, back to their lives, their families, their own concerns. Susan called once a week, awkward conversations where she'd ask if he was eating properly and he'd lie and say yes. Paul sent occasional texts. David hadn't been in touch since the funeral. Bob understood. They were busy. They had their own lives. But understanding didn't make the loneliness any easier. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. January in Leeds was brutal. Dark by 4 in the afternoon, rain that never quite stopped, cold that seeped into your bones. Bob would wake up each morning, make tea, sit in the kitchen staring at Margaret's empty chair, and wonder what the point of any of it was. He tried to keep busy, went to the pub twice a week to meet old workmates, watched football, did the shopping, cooked meals for one that he barely ate, but every activity felt hollow, performance rather than living. One evening in late January, unable to sleep, Bob started watching YouTube videos. The algorithm offered him content about retiring abroad. He clicked on one about Thailand British pensioners living in Pattaya, talking about the warm weather, cheap cost of living, friendly people. One old lad from Manchester said, "Best decision I ever made, leaving Britain. Out here, your pension goes 3 times as far. Weather's brilliant. People actually smile at you." Bob watched video after video. Expats showing their apartments nice places for 300 quid a month, meals for £2 or £3, beer cheaper than water, sunshine year-round. And other things too. Things they didn't say directly but showed in the footage. Older British men with younger Thai women, smiling couples at restaurants, walking on beaches, looking happy in a way Bob hadn't felt in years. He told himself that wasn't the draw. But late at night, alone in his too-big bed, he thought about it, thought about companionship, about feeling wanted again, about not being alone. Thailand started to feel less like a holiday destination and more like an answer. In February, Bob contacted an estate agent. His house was in decent condition. Margaret had kept it immaculate. The agent suggested listing at £275,000 for a quick sale. Susan called when she found out. "Dad, what are you doing? Where will you live?" "Thailand," he said, "going to retire there properly." "Thailand? Dad, you've never even been there. Plenty of British lads out there. Whole communities of retirees. It's warm, it's cheap, it's beautiful. But you don't know anyone. What if you hate it? Then I'll come back. But I can't stay here, Susan. This house, this city, everywhere I look is your mum. I'm drowning here." She went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I understand. I just worry about you being so far away. You barely visit now and I'm 2 hours down the M62. Distance doesn't matter much when everyone's too busy anyway." He regretted the words immediately. "I'm sorry, love. That was unfair." "No," she said quietly. "You're right. We should visit more. We should call more. I'm sorry, Dad." But they both knew. Nothing would change. She had her life. He needed to find something that looked like life again. The house sold in 3 weeks for £270,000. After paying off final bills and the estate agent, Bob netted £256,000. He withdrew his pension as a lump sum, taking the early withdrawal penalty. He got £168,000 instead of receiving $22,000 annually. Combined with some savings, Bob had £435,000, enough to live extremely well in Thailand for the rest of his life, enough to never worry about money again if he was sensible, or enough to lose everything if he wasn't. Bob sold or donated most of his possessions. Furniture, Margaret's clothes he couldn't bear to go through properly, 40 years of accumulated life. He kept some photos, important documents, and Margaret's wedding ring on a chain around his neck. On March 21st, 2024, Bob locked the door of his empty house for the last time, took a taxi to Manchester Airport, and boarded a flight to Bangkok. 2 suitcases, one-way ticket, £435,000 in his bank account, everything he'd known left behind. As the plane lifted off, Bob touched Margaret's ring through his shirt. "I hope I'm doing the right thing, love. I can't do this without you. Not here. Maybe somewhere new." England disappeared beneath clouds. Bob ordered a whiskey and tried to feel excited instead of terrified. Bangkok's heat was shocking. 34 degrees at 11 at night, with humidity that felt like breathing through a wet flannel. After Leeds in March, cold rain and gray skies, the heat felt almost aggressive. Bob had booked a hotel in Pattaya, based on YouTube recommendations. British lads in the videos said Pattaya was where retirees went cheaper than Bangkok, right on the beach. Tons of expat bars and restaurants. The taxi from Bangkok cost him 1,600 baht, about £40. Expensive, but he was too knackered from the flight to haggle. They drove through the night, past industrial areas and sleeping towns, until the highway opened up, and Bob saw the ocean, a dark mass reflecting city lights. Then suddenly they were on Beach Road, surrounded by neon signs, bars with girls standing outside, massage shops with pink lights, 7-Elevens on every corner. It was overwhelming, chaotic, nothing like the quiet Leeds suburbs he'd known, and part of him loved it immediately, the energy, the noise, the sense that life was actually happening here. His hotel was called the Golden Palace, a mid-range place on 2nd Road. The lobby was cool with white tiles and fake plants. A young Thai bloke at reception checked him in with a smile, calling him Sir, and asking about his flight. His room was small but clean. Double bed, tiny bathroom, balcony overlooking the street. Bob stood on that balcony in the warm night air, watching the neon lights and listening to music thumping from bars below, and felt something shift in his chest. This was it. New life. Fresh start. No more cold, no more loneliness, no more empty house full of memories. He spent his first week just existing, walking Beach Road at sunrise when it was quieter, finding breakfast spots that served English breakfast alongside Thai food. Discovering Walking Street, the main entertainment area, bars and clubs packed together, girls everywhere calling to passing men. Bob felt out of place in Walking Street. Too old, too proper, too British. The other tourists were younger, louder, already drunk by noon. But there were older expats too. British, American, European men his age or older, often with young Thai women hanging on their arms. Everything was cheap in a way that felt surreal. A full English breakfast cost 90 baht, about 2 quid 20. Beer was 40 baht, a pint just over a quid. His hotel room was 1,000 baht a night, 24 pounds. Bob did the math constantly. If he rented a flat for 8,000 baht monthly, about 200 pounds, and spent another 10,000 on food and entertainment, he could live well on 18,000 baht monthly. That was about 450 pounds. His pension would cover that twice over. 435,000 pounds could last him decades if he was careful. But the loneliness was still there. He'd sit in restaurants watching couples, old foreign men with young Thai women, and feel that familiar ache. He'd walk back to his hotel alone each night and lie awake in the dark, reaching for Margaret out of habit. The YouTube videos had made it seem like companionship would just materialize, like Thai women would naturally gravitate toward Western men. But Bob didn't know how any of it worked. He'd been married since 24. He'd never had to navigate dating, especially not in a foreign country with different rules and languages. In his second week, Bob started looking for somewhere permanent. He needed a flat, someplace that felt like home rather than a hotel. He looked at half a dozen places, some too expensive, some too run down, some in areas that felt dodgy, even by Pattaya standards. He found a one-bedroom flat in a building off Soi Buakaw. Nothing fancy but clean furnished with a bed, sofa, small kitchen, balcony. 12,000 baht monthly, about 300 pounds. He signed a 6-month lease and moved in. Having his own place helped. He could cook when he wanted proper British food when he was homesick or try Thai dishes from the market. He established routines, morning walks, lunch at the same few restaurants, afternoons by the hotel pool he'd kept access to, evenings watching downloaded British TV shows. But he was still alone, still felt invisible, still wondered if coming to Thailand had been a mistake. Then he met Luke. Bob's first proper night out in Pattaya was in his 3rd week. He'd been avoiding the bar scene, uncomfortable with the whole setup, but one evening, restless and lonely, he walked down Soi Buakaw until he found a small bar that looked less intimidating than the others. It was called Lucky Lady, a typical Pattaya beer bar with open sides, a pool table, a few high tables, and girls sitting on stools scrolling their phones. Music played at a reasonable volume. It felt less aggressive than other places. Bob took a seat at the bar. A middle-aged Thai woman, the mama-san who ran the place, smiled at him. "Welcome. First time here?" "Yeah," Bob said. "Just moved to Pattaya a couple weeks ago." "Ah, welcome to Pattaya. You want drink?" "Chang beer, please." One of the girls came over young, maybe mid-20s, with long black hair and a sweet smile. She wore jean shorts and a simple tank top, less flashy than the others. "Hello," she said shyly. "You live Pattaya now?" "Trying to," Bob said. "From England, Leeds." "Leeds, I know Leeds. Manchester United play there sometimes, yes?" Bob laughed. "That's Manchester. Love. Different city. Though we do have Leeds United." She giggled at her mistake. "Sorry, I'm not good with England geography. My name Gintana. Everyone call me Luke. I'm Bob. Robert, but everyone calls me Bob. Nice meet you, Bob." She sat on the stool next to him without asking, which he'd learned was how it worked in these bars. You buy them drinks, they sit with you, you chat. Simple transaction. But Luke didn't immediately ask for a drink. She just talked. "You retire here?" she asked. "Yeah, wife passed away a few months back. Needed a change. Couldn't stay in Leeds anymore." Her face softened with genuine sympathy. "I'm sorry. That very sad. You must love her very much. 38 years married. Hard to let go." "My father died 3 years ago," Luke said quietly. "I understand. The missing never stop." They talked for 2 hours. She told him about growing up in a small village in Isan, Thailand's poor northeast region. Her father had died in a motorbike accident. Her mother was ill diabetes, high blood pressure. Luke had come to Pattaya to work and send money home. "I don't like work in bar," she said, looking down at her hands. "But money better here. I send 20,000 baht every month to my mother. Help with medicine, help with bills." "That's a lot of responsibility for someone your age," Bob said. "I oldest child. My job take care family. She shrugged. This how it is in Thailand. Bob bought her a few drinks. Lady drinks at 120 baht each, about 3 quid. The mama-san got a cut, Luke got a cut. Everyone knew the system, but Luke never pressured him. She just talked, listened, laughed at his jokes about Leeds weather. You nice man, she said as the bar was closing around 1 a.m. Not like most customer. Most want go straight to short time, but you just talk, just nice. I'm too old for short time, love, Bob said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. She smiled. You not old, you handsome, like English gentlemen. Bob felt something warm in his chest, something he hadn't felt since Margaret died. Someone thought he was handsome. Someone enjoyed his company. Someone saw him. Can I see you again? He asked. Tomorrow maybe? You want see me? I do, if you'd like. Her smile widened. I like very much. I not work tomorrow afternoon. We can meet? Go beach maybe? They exchanged phone numbers. Bob walked back to his flat feeling lighter than he had in months, maybe years. He had someone to see, someone who smiled when he talked, someone who made him feel less alone. That night, lying in bed, he touched Margaret's ring through his shirt. I know it's only been a few months, love, but I can't keep living like I'm dead too. I need something, someone. I hope you understand. The next afternoon, Luke met him at his flat. She'd changed into a simple sundress, her hair loose around her shoulders. They walked to Pattaya beach together, found a quiet spot away from the tourist crowds, and sat on the sand talking. She told him more about her family. Her mother needed expensive medicine that wasn't covered by Thailand's healthcare system. Her younger brother was still in school. They were barely getting by. Bob found himself wanting to help. How much does your mother's medicine cost? Too much. Maybe 5,000 baht every month. But I don't ask you for money. I just tell you about my life. I know you're not asking, but 5,000 baht is only about 120 quid. That's nothing to me. I could help. She looked at him with tears forming. You just meet me. Why you want help? Because you're working in a bar you hate to help your family. That's admirable. If I can make it a bit easier, why wouldn't I? She hugged him then sudden and tight, her face pressed against his chest. You very good man, Bob. Very good heart. They became inseparable after that. Luke would finish work at the bar around midnight, and Bob would meet her. They'd get late-night food at street stalls, sit on the beach talking until sunrise, fall asleep together in his flat. Within a week, she started calling him husband. My husband so handsome, she'd say, kissing his cheek. My husband take good care of me. It felt fast. Bob knew it was fast. But after months of crushing loneliness, having someone who wanted to be with him felt like oxygen after drowning. She moved into his flat after 2 weeks, just gradually bringing clothes over, staying every night, cooking him breakfast. She'd tidy the flat, do his laundry, make sure he ate properly. It felt domestic, real, like having a partner again. You should quit the bar, Bob said one night. I don't like you working there. I don't like other men touching you, buying you drinks. I need money for my mother, she said. I can't just quit. I'll give you money for your mother. 20,000 baht a month, same as you were sending, plus money for yourself. You don't need to work there anymore. She started crying. You really do this? You really take care of me? I want to. I want you to be happy. I want us to build something together. I love you, Bob, she whispered. I know too soon to say, but I love you. Bob's heart was pounding. He hadn't said those words to anyone but Margaret in 40 years. But looking at Luke, this beautiful young woman who'd made him feel alive again, he knew it was true. I love you too, he said. Luke quit the bar the next day. Bob gave the mama-san 5,000 baht, about 120 pounds, as compensation for losing a worker. The mama-san smiled knowingly and said, take care of her. She good girl. Life with Luke felt easy, natural. She'd wake before Bob each morning, make coffee, cook breakfast, sometimes Thai food, sometimes attempting English breakfast with varying success. She'd clean the flat while he read the news on his laptop. They'd spend afternoons exploring Pattaya together or just lying on the beach. Bob gave her 25,000 baht monthly, about 600 pounds. 20,000 for her mother, 5,000 for personal expenses. She was always grateful, always saying it was too much, that he was too kind. His expat friends started noticing. He'd met a few other British lads, Roger from Manchester, Colin from Birmingham, Derek from somewhere in Scotland. They'd meet at the Pig and Whistle, a British pub on Swai Bua Khao, drinking cheap beer and watching Premier League matches. When Bob brought Luke to meet them, the reactions were mixed. "Bit young, isn't she?" Roger said quietly when Luke went to the toilet. "She's 24, Bob said defensively. "And you're 66, mate. Just saying, be careful." "Careful of what? She's good to me. Makes me happy." Colin leaned in. "How much are you giving her monthly?" "That's between us, which means a lot, Bob. I'm not judging. But I've been here 8 years. I've seen this story 100 times. Young bird, older bloke, promises of love. Then suddenly she needs money for sick buffalo or land investment or—" "She's not like that," Bob interrupted. "She quit the bar. She lives with me. She's not asking for anything." "Yet," Derek muttered. Bob stopped going to the Pig and Whistle as often. They were just cynical old bastards who'd been burned and couldn't believe anyone else might find something real. In May, 2 months after meeting Luke, Bob's flat lease was up for renewal. Luke suggested they find a house instead. "Flat too small," she said. "You deserve nice place. Real home, not rental flat. Houses are expensive. Not here. We can rent nice house, 2-bedroom, garden, maybe 25,000 baht monthly. Only £600. Much better than flat." They looked at houses for a week. Finally found a nice place in a quiet neighborhood, 2 bedrooms, small garden, parking for a motorbike, secured compound. The rent was 30,000 baht monthly, about £750. More than Bob wanted to spend, but Luke loved it. "This our home, husband? Real home for real family." He signed a 1-year lease and paid 6 months up front, 180,000 baht, about £4,500. Luke cried with happiness. She decorated the house carefully, buying plants, cushions, pictures for the walls. She cooked elaborate meals. She introduced Bob to her friends, other Thai women with foreign boyfriends, and they'd all go out together to restaurants and karaoke bars. Bob felt part of something, part of a community. He wasn't just some sad old man anymore. He had a partner, a home, a social life. He was happy. Then Luke mentioned the motorbike. "My village 3 hours from Pattaya," she said one evening. "I want visit my mother, but taxi too expensive. If I have motorbike, I can go easy." "You can ride a motorbike?" "Of course. All Thai people can. I ride since I'm 14. "How much does a motorbike cost?" "Good one. Maybe 60,000 baht. New or nearly new." 60,000 baht was about £1,500. Not cheap, but not unreasonable either. And if it meant Luke could visit her mother regularly, it was worth it. They went to a motorbike shop together. Luke picked out a red Honda Click, 150 sporty but practical, with helmet, insurance, and registration. The total came to 68,000 baht, £1,700. Bob paid cash. Luke was ecstatic, hugging him in front of the shop, calling him the best husband in the world. She drove them home on the new motorbike, Bob holding on behind her, feeling the wind and sun, and thinking this was what freedom felt like. That night, lying in bed in their rented house, Luke brought up something new. "Bob, I want to tell you something. About my family." "What is it, love?" "My family have land, in my village. 5 ray, that like 2 acres, I think. My father buy long time ago, before he die. But land just sitting empty, nobody use it." "Why not?" "No money to develop. My mother want build small resort, just few rooms, maybe restaurant, for tourists who want see real Thailand, not just Pattaya, but need money for build." Bob's stomach tightened slightly. "How much money?" "I don't know exactly. Maybe few million baht. But Bob, I not ask you for money. I just tell you about dream. Family dream." "How many million baht are we talking?" "Maybe 6 or 7 million baht to do properly. Build 5 or 6 rooms, small restaurant, swimming pool. Make really nice." 6 or 7 million baht was about 150 to 175,000 pounds, a massive amount, over a third of his total savings. "That's a lot of money, Luke." "I know. That why just dream. We never have that money." She kissed his cheek. "But nice to dream together, yes?" Bob lay awake after she fell asleep, thinking about the resort idea. It wasn't completely crazy. Thailand's tourism industry was huge. A small resort in an authentic village, away from Pattaya's sleaze, marketed to tourists, wanting real cultural experiences. It could work. And if he invested, it would be their business together, their future. Proof that this relationship was real, that they were building something permanent. Over the next 2 weeks, Luke brought up the resort more frequently. She'd show him photos of her family's land, beautiful shots of rice fields with mountains in the background. She'd talk about her vision, traditional Thai-style bungalows, open-air restaurants serving authentic Asian food, day trips to local temples and markets. "We could run it together," she said. "You manage business side, you good at that from bus company. I handle Thai side staff, suppliers, permits. We build something beautiful, Bob, something that lasts." "What about your mother? Where would she live?" "She live on property. In big house we build for her. She be so happy. No more worry about money. She can just enjoy life." Finally, the idea grew on Bob. He had £435,000. He'd spent perhaps $20,000 so far, leaving him about $415,000. If he invested $175,000 in the resort, he'd still have $240,000 left, plenty to live on. And the resort could generate income. If it worked, they'd have monthly profits. If it didn't, he'd still have enough to live comfortably. His daughter Susan called in June. They'd been texting but hadn't actually spoken since he left England. "Dad, how are you?" "Really? I'm great, love. Really great. Actually got some news." "What news?" "I met someone. Thai woman named Look. We're living together." Long pause. "How old is she?" "Does it matter?" "Dad, yes, it matters." "How old?" 24. "Jesus Christ, Dad. She's younger than Paul." "I know how old she is. And she makes me happy. First time I've been happy since your mum died." "I'm sure she does. How much money have you given her?" "That's not your concern." "It absolutely is my concern. Dad, these women target lonely old men. I'm not some doddering fool getting scammed, Susan. Luke loves me. We have a life together. We're even thinking about starting a business." "A business? Dad, please tell me you haven't invested money." "Not yet, but we're considering it. Small resort in her village. Could be really successful." "Dad, listen to me. Do not give her money. Do not invest in any business. Please, these are classic scams. She's playing you. You don't know her. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know she's 42 years younger than you and talking about business investments. That's all I need to know." Bob hung up angry. His kids didn't understand. They never visited, barely called, but now suddenly they cared? Now they had opinions about his life? He pushed their concerns away and focused on what felt real. Look, their home, their future together. In July, Luke suggested Bob visit her village to see the land himself, meet her mother, see the location, understand the potential. They drove 3 hours north on Luke's motorbike, leaving Pattaya behind for rural Thailand rice fields, small villages, water buffalo grazing beside roads. It was beautiful, peaceful, everything Pattaya wasn't. Luke's village was called Bangkok, a small cluster of wooden houses, dirt roads, locals staring curiously at the foreign man arriving on the back of a motorbike. Her mother's house was modest, old wooden structure, tin roof, chickens in the yard. But her mother was lovely, a tiny woman who smiled warmly despite speaking no English. She fed them elaborate meal of Asian food, kept patting Bob's arm and saying things in Thai that made Luke laugh. "She say you too handsome for me," Luke translated, grinning. After lunch, they drove to see the land. It was beautiful, 5 rai of flat land, bordered by trees, mountains visible in the distance, a small stream running along one edge. Bob could see the potential immediately. Bungalows here, restaurant there, pool in the center. "What do you think?" Luke asked. "It's beautiful. Really beautiful. We could make something special here. I know we could." They met with Luke's uncle, a man named Kunsum Chai, who supposedly handled family business matters. He was maybe 50, well-dressed, professional, seeming, spoke decent English. Somchai had papers, rough plans for bungalow layouts, cost estimates, permit requirements. It all looked legitimate. Official stamps, government letterheads, detailed budgets. Total cost maybe 6.5 million baht, Somchai explained. Land already owned by family, so just building cost. 5 bungalows, restaurant, pool, landscaping, furniture, permits, everything. 6.5 million baht was about 162,500 pounds. Family cannot afford this, Somchai continued. But if foreign partner invest, we can build together, share profit, very good business. Bob asked practical questions. How long would construction take? What were projected revenues? What were operating costs? Somchai had answers for everything. 6 months construction. Full occupancy could generate 200,000 baht monthly profit, Operating costs about 50,000 monthly. The numbers worked. At 150,000 baht monthly net profit, about 3,750 pounds, Bob would recoup his investment in less than 4 years. After that, pure profit. I need to think about it, Bob said. Somchai nodded. Of course, big decision, but market very good now. Tourists want authentic Thailand experience. This perfect location, perfect time. On the drive back to Pattaya, Luke was quiet. You don't want to do it, she said finally. I didn't say that. I said I need to think. You don't trust me. That's not true. My family show you everything. Real land, real plans, real opportunity. But you still don't believe. Look, it's 160,000 pounds. That's a huge amount of money. I need to think carefully. She didn't speak the rest of the drive. When they got home, she went straight to bed without saying goodnight. Bob lay awake, guilt gnawing at him. Luke had opened her life to him, her family, her dreams, her trust, and he was hesitating like he didn't believe in her. The next morning, he told her he'd do it. All of it. The full investment. She cried with happiness, kissing him over and over, telling him he was the best man alive, that they'd build something beautiful together, that he'd never regret this. We partners now, she said. Real partners. Forever. The money transfer happened in stages. First, 100,000 pounds to secure permits and start construction. Then another 62,500 as building progressed. Somchai provided regular updates, photos of construction, receipts for materials, permits with official stamps. Everything looked legitimate, looked real. By September, Bob had transferred 162,500 pounds, 6.5 million baht. His savings had dropped from 415,000 pounds to 252,500 pounds. Still comfortable, still enough to live on, but a huge amount gone. Luke was affectionate and attentive during this time. She cooked his favorite meals. She'd massage his shoulders after long days. She'd tell him how proud she was, how they were building their future together, how her mother blessed them every day. Bob felt good about the investment. Nervous, yes, but good. This was real. This was their business, their future. They were partners. In October, Somchai said construction was nearly complete. Just final touches, furniture, landscaping. Bob asked to visit, to see the progress. Not good time, Somchai said. Workers everywhere, very messy. Better wait until finished. Maybe 2 more weeks. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Somchai had excuses, weather delays, permit inspections, furniture shipment problems. Always something. Luke started acting strange. She was on her phone constantly, texting in Thai, looking stressed. When Bob asked what was wrong, she'd say family problems. Nothing serious. Don't worry. When can we visit the resort? Bob asked one evening. Soon. Somchai say maybe next week finished. You said that 2 weeks ago. Thai construction always slow. You know this. She snapped at him more now. Little things would set her off. Bob asking about money, wanting to see the resort, questioning Somchai's updates. She'd accuse him of not trusting her, of being like every other Farang who thought Thais were all scammers. And Bob would apologize because making her angry felt worse than his doubts. In early November, Bob made a decision. He'd drive to Bangkok himself, surprise them with a visit, see the nearly finished resort with his own eyes. He rented a car. Luke had taken the motorbike to visit her mother and drove north following the directions he remembered. 3 hours through Thai countryside, arriving at Bangkok in the afternoon heat. He found her mother's house easily. An old woman was in the yard, not Luke's mother, someone else. Bob tried to communicate, showing a photo of Luke on his phone. The woman shook her head. My Ru, I don't know. He found the village chief, a man who spoke some English. Bob explained he was looking for the Pramwong family, specifically Jintana, who everyone called Luke. The chief looked confused. No Pramwong family in Bangkok. Maybe different village? No, this is the right village. She brought me here. I met her mother in that house. Bob pointed. That house belonged to Suan family. Very old family here, but no daughter named Jintana. Bob's stomach dropped. What about the land? 5 ray of land owned by the Pramwong family? They were building a resort? The chief shook his head. No new construction here, no resort building. Bob drove to where he remembered the land being. Found the spot beautiful, 5 rai with trees and a stream. No construction, no materials, no evidence anyone had ever planned to build anything. Just empty land that wasn't for sale, didn't belong to Luke's family, and probably never had. Bob sat in the rented car in the afternoon heat and felt his world collapse. Bob drove back to Pattaya in a daze. 3 hours of his mind spinning, trying to make sense of it. Maybe he'd gotten the wrong village. Maybe there was another Bangkok. Maybe the chief was mistaken. But he knew the truth. He'd known it the moment the chief said no Pramwong family lived there. He'd just been denying it, refusing to accept what was obviously painfully real. He arrived at the house after dark. Luke's motorbike wasn't there. Inside, the house felt different, empty somehow. Her clothes were gone. Her toiletries were gone from the bathroom. The decorations she'd bought, the cushions, the plants, the pictures, all gone. Even her Buddha statue that had sat on the shelf in the living room. The house had been cleaned out. Not completely, Bob's things were still there, but everything that was hers had vanished. He tried calling her. Phone disconnected. Texted her. Messages didn't deliver. Tried Facebook, her profile was deleted or she'd blocked him. Bob sat on the couch in the mostly empty house and finally let himself feel the full weight of what had happened. Luke wasn't who she said she was. Her mother probably wasn't her mother. Bangkok might not even be her real village. The land didn't belong to her family. The resort was never going to be built. Somchai was likely her boyfriend or brother or partner in the scam. She'd played a role for 8 months. The sweet bar girl who hated her job. The devoted daughter sending money home to her sick mother. The traditional Thai woman who just wanted a good man to build a life with. And Bob had believed every word because he was lonely and grieving and desperate to feel like his life mattered again. He opened his banking app with shaking hands. His current account, £800. His savings account, £1,100. Total remaining, £1,900. He'd started with £435,000 8 months ago. Now he had less than $2,000. He'd spent perhaps $18,000 on living expenses, rent, daily life. The rest, $162,500 on the fake resort, $1,700 on the motorbike, deposits on the house, money for her mother, regular monthly payments, all of it gone. £433,100. 43 years of working Leeds bus routes in rain and snow and cold. 43 years of saving and being careful and building security. Gone in 8 months to a 24-year-old bar worker who'd smiled at him and called him handsome. Bob called the police from the empty house. They arrived an hour later, 2 officers who looked completely unsurprised by his story. "You have evidence?" one asked in broken English. Bob showed them everything. Bank transfers, photos of the land, screenshots of messages with Luke, the fake documents Somchai had provided. The officer nodded. "We try to find her, but difficult. Name may be fake. Phone number disconnected. If she leave Pattaya, very hard find. What about the money? Can I get it back? Did she force you? Threaten you? No, but then police cannot help much. You give money voluntary. She your girlfriend. Thai law very difficult in this case." They took his statement. They promised to investigate. Bob never heard from them again. He tried finding Somchai. The phone number didn't work. The address on the fake documents didn't exist. He'd been part of the scam from the start, obviously. Probably ran this con with Luke on multiple victims. Bob went to Lucky Lady Bar, where he'd first met Luke. The mama-san recognized him. "You looking for Luke?" "Yes." "Where is she?" The mama-san shrugged. "She quit long time ago. I don't know where she go." "She didn't quit. She scammed me. Took everything I have." The mama-san's face hardened. "I don't know about that. Girls come, girls go. Not my business what they do outside bar." Bob stood there uselessly. The mama-san had probably seen this happen dozens of times, probably had arrangements with girls like Luke, probably got a cut of the scams. He walked back to the house in the dark, wondering what the hell he was supposed to do now. The house rent was paid through December. After that, he'd need a new place. But he had less than £2,000. His pension had been taken as a lump sum, so no monthly income. His state pension wouldn't start until he was 68, 2 years away. He had nothing. No money, no income, no way to get back to England even if he wanted to. No house to return to. No plan except trying to survive until his state pension started. Bob sat on the floor of the empty house and cried. Great heaving sobs that hurt his chest. Margaret's ring hung against his heart, and he whispered apologies to her ghost. "I'm sorry, love. I'm so sorry. I threw away everything we built, everything you worked for. I'm sorry." The house rent ran out in December. Bob couldn't afford to renew it. He moved into a guest house on Soi Buakau, a rundown place where rooms cost 4,000 baht monthly, about £100. The room was tiny, a mattress on a concrete floor, a broken fan, a shared bathroom down the hall. It smelled like mold and cigarettes and defeat. His money was evaporating. Food, rent, phone credit, electricity, even living cheaply, he was burning through his remaining savings. By January 2025, he was down to £800. He tried finding work, but who hires a 66-year-old British man with no Thai language, no work permit, no relevant skills for the Thai market? He put up flyers offering English tutoring, £20 an hour, got one student, a Thai university kid who took 2 lessons and disappeared. He did odd jobs when he could find them, helping expats move furniture, proofreading English documents, anything that paid cash. He might make £50 or £100 a month, not nearly enough. He called Susan, confessed everything, every pound lost, every mistake made. She was quiet for a long time after he finished. "I tried to warn you, Dad. I know. I told you not to invest. I know, love. I know. I want to help, but we're strapped ourselves. The mortgage, the kids' school fees, everything's expensive. I can send maybe £200 a month. That's all I can manage." "That's too much, Susan. I can't. You don't have a choice. You're my father. I'm not leaving you homeless in Thailand." She started sending £200 monthly. Combined with his occasional work, Bob had maybe £250 to £300 monthly, just enough to survive. Barely. His diet became rice and eggs, cheap vegetables from the market, the occasional splurge on chicken if he'd made extra money that week. He lost weight rapidly, his clothes hanging loose, his face gaunt. His visa was expiring. He'd been in Thailand on visa exemptions and tourist visas. To stay long-term, he needed retirement visa or other options, but all required showing minimum income or bank balance he didn't have. He couldn't afford to leave, couldn't afford to stay, couldn't afford anything. In February, desperate and broken, Bob found a volunteer opportunity at a place called the Expat Shelter, a small organization run by an older British woman named Margaret, the name hit him like a punch, who helped scammed expats. They offered basic accommodation, food, support groups, help navigating Thai bureaucracy. "You're far from the first," Margaret told him gently. "And you won't be the last. These girls are professionals. They target men like you, lonely, grieving, vulnerable. They know exactly what buttons to push." The shelter was full of men like Bob, British, American, Australian, all between 60 and 75, all telling versions of the same story. Young Thai woman, declarations of love, business investments, or sick buffalo, or family emergencies, then vanishing with everything. "She told me she loved me," one old American said during a support group. "Called me her soulmate. I believed her because I needed to believe her." Bob understood completely. He stayed at the shelter, volunteering in exchange for accommodation and meals. He helped new arrivals navigate their losses, contacted their families, tried to help them rebuild. He became the cautionary tale he'd once rolled his eyes at. Bob is 67 now. He's been living at the expat shelter for 9 months, volunteering and waiting for his state pension to start in 1 year when he turned 68. The shelter is basic, a dormitory-style room he shares with 3 other men, communal meals, strict rules about alcohol and behavior. But it's clean, it's safe, and everyone there understands without judgment. He's lost 30 pounds. His hair has gone completely gray. He looks older than 67. He looks like what he is, a broken man who gambled everything on a dream and lost. His state pension will be about £800 monthly when it starts. Not much, but enough to rent a small room, eat properly, survive with dignity. He just has to make it 1 more year. Susan still sends £200 monthly. Paul sent £500 once, along with a short email saying he was sorry for being distant. David hasn't been in touch. Bob volunteers at the shelter, helping new arrivals process their losses. Last week, a 72-year-old from Liverpool arrived, lost everything to a bar girl who'd promised to open a salon. Bob sat with him, made tea, listened to the familiar story. "How do you move forward?" the man asked. "How do you live with being such a fool?" "1 day at a time, mate," Bob said. "That's all you can do." Bob thinks about Luke sometimes, more than he should. He wonders if she ever felt anything real for him, or if every word, every smile, every kiss was performance. He wants to believe some of it was genuine, that maybe she did like him a bit, even if not enough to stop the con. But he knows the truth. He was never Bob to her. He was a mark, a retirement account with a heartbeat. She played the role perfectly, the sweet bar girl who hated the work, the devoted daughter supporting her family, the traditional woman seeking a good man to build a life with. And he believed it all because he was grieving and lonely and desperate to feel like he mattered. Because after Margaret died and his kids drifted away and England felt like a tomb, he needed someone to see him, to want him, to make him feel alive again. Thailand didn't do this to him. Luke didn't even do it entirely. He participated in his own destruction. He ignored warnings. He dismissed his daughter's concerns. He chose fantasy over reality because reality was unbearable. That's the real lesson. Not that Thailand is dangerous, or that all Thai women are scammers, or that age gap relationships always fail. The lesson is simpler. Grief makes you vulnerable, and some people can smell vulnerability like blood in the water. He was vulnerable. Luke smelled it. She played the role he needed her to play until there was nothing left to take. Bob didn't fall for a bar girl. He fell for the dream. She sold him a dream of love, partnership, purpose, mattering to someone. And that dream cost him £433,000 and his dignity. Margaret's ring still hangs around his neck. He touches it sometimes and apologizes. "I'm sorry, love. I threw away everything we built. I know you'd be ashamed of me." But other times, he thinks maybe Margaret would understand. Maybe she'd see that he wasn't chasing youth or sex or some midlife crisis fantasy. He was chasing hope. He was trying to survive the grief of losing her by finding something, anything that made life feel worth living again. Luke knew exactly what he needed to believe, and she delivered it perfectly until his bank account was empty. His state pension starts in 12 months. 12 more months of dormitory living and communal meals and support groups where men tell their versions of the same story. If he can make it 12 months, life gets slightly more bearable. Not good, not happy, just bearable. Maybe that's enough. Maybe survival is victory when you've lost everything. The sun is setting over Pattaya. The shelter is quiet. In a few hours, Bob will lie down on his dormitory bed and try to sleep despite the snoring of the other men and the weight of everything he's lost. And tomorrow, he'll wake up and survive another day, because that's all there is left to do. Survive. Bob Langford volunteers at the Expat shelter every day now, greeting new arrivals who stumble through the door with the same dazed expression he wore 9 months ago. Men who believed in love, who thought they'd found happiness, who lost everything to women who saw them as transactions rather than humans. "I didn't fall for a bar girl," Bob tells them. "I fell for the dream she sold me, and she knew exactly which dream to sell." Some men arrive angry, swearing revenge, convinced they'll get their money back. Bob lets them rage until exhaustion takes over, then makes them tea and explains the reality. The money's gone, the women are gone, the dreams were always fiction. Some arrive in denial, still believing their girlfriends love them despite the empty bank accounts. "She had an emergency," they'll say. "Family crisis, she'll pay me back." Bob recognizes that denial. He lived it for weeks. He gently shows them the pattern, helps them see what they're not ready to see. Some arrive already broken, understanding exactly what happened, just needing a place to land while they figure out how to survive. Bob helps them most because he knows their journey. He's living it. Margaret, who runs the shelter, tells Bob he's their best volunteer. "You speak their language?" she says. "You've walked their path. They trust you because you're not lecturing, you're surviving alongside them." The shelter survives on donations from expats who avoided these scams or learned the lesson cheaply. It's always underfunded, always struggling, but it's a lifeline for men who have nowhere else to go. Bob's state pension starts in 8 months now. He's counting down the days. £800 monthly, enough to leave the shelter, rent a small room, eat properly, live with some dignity. Not the retirement he'd imagined, but better than where he is now. He'll stay in Thailand when the pension starts. Not because he loves it here, but because he can't afford to go back to England. Can't afford deposits and rent. Can't face the looks from his family and former colleagues. Can't stomach being the cautionary tale people whisper about. At least in Pattaya, he's one of many cautionary tales. The city is full of men who lost everything to beautiful lies. He's not unique, just another old fool who thought loneliness was curable with attention from a pretty young woman. His daughter Susan calls every week now. She's forgiven him, or at least stopped blaming him. She understands he was drowning in grief and grabbed for anything that looked like rescue. "You're not a fool, Dad," she said last week. "You're a human being who made a mistake. A really expensive mistake, but still just a mistake. £433,000 is more than a mistake, love. I know, but you're still my dad, and you're still here. That counts for something." Bob doesn't tell her about the nights he considered not being here anymore. The nights when surviving felt harder than stopping. The nights when the weight of his mistakes felt too heavy to carry for another day. But he's still here, still surviving, still helping other men navigate the same shame and loss and broken dreams. Last week, a 70-year-old German arrived at the shelter, lost everything to a woman who said she loved him, who promised forever, who vanished with his life savings the moment his bank account emptied. "How do you forgive yourself?" the German asked Bob. "How do you wake up each day knowing what you've done?" Bob thought about it carefully. You don't forgive yourself. Not completely. You just accept that you are human, lonely, vulnerable, desperate for connection. And someone exploited that. It doesn't make you stupid. It makes you human. Does it get easier? No, Bob said honestly. It gets familiar. You learn to carry it, but it doesn't get easier. The German nodded, understanding in his eyes. Bob Langford is 67 years old, living in a shelter for scammed expats, surviving on his daughter's charity and occasional cash work, waiting for a pension that will give him just enough to exist but never enough to thrive. He lost his wife to cancer. He lost his savings to a con. He lost his dignity to loneliness and grief and desperate hope. But he didn't lose his humanity. He helps others who fell into the same trap. He offers them tea and understanding, and the hard truth that recovery isn't about getting the money back. It's about learning to survive with what remains. That's Bob's story. A cautionary tale written in empty bank accounts and broken dreams. A reminder that scammers don't just steal money, they steal hope, dignity, and the belief that love can heal grief. But he's still here, still surviving, still proof that even when you've lost everything, you can find something worth living for in helping others who've walked your same painful path. He touches Margaret's ring through his shirt each morning. "I'm still here, love, still trying. Hope that counts for something." And maybe it does. Maybe survival is its own kind of redemption. That's all Bob is left. But some days, it feels like enough.